Welcome back to the Marine Corps Movie Minute, where we discuss the movie Heartbreak Ridge 1 minute at a time. I am your co host, Brian Lockhart,
And I'm Jack Perry.
and today we are discussing Minute 24. Minute 24 starts with the continuing conversation between Sergeant Major Chuzu and Gunnery Sergeant Highway, and it ends with Gunnery Sergeant Highway pulling up to the barracks. We jump in from last minute and continue the conversation, as I stated, with Gunny Highway Sergeant Major Chuzu. Last minute, he says the skinny is right before he mounts his old lady, he consults the Marine Corps manual so he can ensure, and then that was the left us blank, and we find out that it's to perform in a proficient military order,
Yeah, yeah.
or perform in an orderly, proficient military
Military
manner.
manner, right?
Yeah. And then what's funny is when they said it, when Chuzu starts saying it, when he's saying proficient military manner, about that point is when Tom Highway jumps in and they say it together
Yeah. So
in
this is,
unison.
yeah. So there
Almost kind
must
of
be
like
some
you did
history.
when we were talking.
Yeah.
Which when he did that, it made me think of Airplane when he was like, "That's a completely different kind of flying altogether." And then everybody
Everybody
says,
starts. Yeah.
it's a completely different kind of flying." So I actually, in my notes, I wrote altogether.
Yeah. All together now. Yeah, this was a good minute. You got a lot of well, so you get introduced to their platoon leader, the lieutenant. He comes in. He thinks at first that he's talking to another officer. Probably because the only thing that he saw when he first walked in was Gunny Highway's fruit salad, all of his ribbons and honors on his uniform. And then as he stands up, he kind of gets an idea of what's going on. And he's like a kid. He just keeps going back to those ribbons.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's eyeing those things like crazy, which is hilarious.
He's like, "What?" He's like a kid.
So okay, so I had a question about so that's Lieutenant Ring, we find out. So Sergeant
Hmm.
Major Chuzu introduces him as Lieutenant Ring. Before we get into like more about what's going on with the minute
Yeah.
and actually what's happening on screen, I had a question for you because I'm not quite clear. Is he a butter bars or is he a first lieutenant?
I think he's a first lieutenant. They also do something weird with the uniform that I've never seen. I don't know if they got rid of it before we got in, but putting their military insignia, the officer insignia on their cover where the Eagle Globe and Anchor goes. That's something that we didn't see when we were in.
Yeah, for some reason seemed familiar to me, and I don't know if it's just because I've seen this movie so many times, or if
Yeah.
I knew that that was what they used to do, or if I'm like having a fuzzy memory where I'm like, no, no, I'm sure I've seen people do.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably, like Navy or Army, I know they do something, but they don't use the military or the I'm sorry, the metallic insignia. The Marines are the only ones that well, other than Navy, but like for Army, they use patches. Air Force, I think, use patches. Navy, you use some. Department of the Navy, I think a lot of the insignia has, it all has different names, but they use the same one. So I guess their uniforms are pretty similar to the ways ours were.
Yeah.
But when we were in, all the covers had the Eagle Globe and Anchor on them, and they didn't put the shiny devices in the center of those.
And it's funny because like it's not funny. Um, so like literally in the few seconds that he's on screen, I've gone back and forth of whether or not it's silver or gold. When
Mm,
he's bending over, it looks like on his cover that it's silver. But then there's a couple times when he's standing up on his lapels that I thought it was gold. And I did watch the movie prior to us recording, several weeks ago,
mhm.
but really I never paid much of attention
Yeah.
for later scenes, and there's nothing clearly to indicate because it's not like they go, oh, first lieutenant. No, you just call him lieutenant,
Yeah.
and or you just sir, and in um, on IMDb it's just Lieutenant Ring, so they don't specify first lieutenant, second lieutenant.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's literally in the same moment where he's walking, depending on how the light hits it, I can't tell,
Yeah.
and I cannot recall from later scenes whether he's a first or second lieutenant.
So what
Not that it
what
matters.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it does help though. I mean, because from a military standpoint, it does kind of say, how seasoned this guy is. Is he a boot lieutenant or has he kind of been in for a little while? What I'm using to gauge off of the color is his jump wings are silver. The lieutenant bars have the same type of color, where Gunny Highways has got gold jump wings. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps. It's a little bit more in depth probably than anybody listening to the podcast was. They're gonna pause the movie like, no, god damn it, they're gold. They're clearly.
But oh yeah, I mean, if anybody's listening and knows for sure, they're probably just like, it's so obvious, dummies. But
Yeah.
like I said, I've paused it and I'm like, oh no, it's clearly gold.
Yeah.
And if I honestly knew, if I could remember, like, oh, traditionally a first lieutenant would be a platoon commander, that
Right.
type of thing. But I don't, so I can't tell.
Yeah.
So that's something I think we'll have to keep an eye out for later as
Yeah.
we see Lieutenant Ring. But
I'll even know that he's well, no, I've just even seen the movie a few times. I kind of like this character. There's something about him that you just kind of like, and you kind of well, I don't know, maybe it's just because he's they give him these two kind of shit on him a little bit, which also he's not even 5 steps away from them when they start. So it's like as soon as they leave the screen, is the magical Hollywood voice stop wall kick over where they like characters can't hear what's happening off screen.
well, I think it's just like Major Powers couldn't hear either in the previous
Yeah.
minute.
So
I'm
yeah,
guessing.
as soon as they're as soon as they're out of frame, man, they just like they can't hear you anymore.
Well, maybe that's just officers being kind of like holier than thou, and just they tune out these lowly sergeant majors and gunnery sergeants who have this,
Yeah.
a chest full of ribbons and medals.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to go back to their conversation between Chuzu and Gunny Highway. Before Lieutenant Ring comes in, you could tell they have a genuine affection for each other because when they start talking about the perform in a military, proficient manner,
Uh,
Tom Highway gets a big smile,
yeah.
and he really gets a kick out of that. And then Chuzu immediately invites him to go have dinner with his wife and him.
Yeah.
He's like, let's go, come by and have chow. He says chow.
Yeah.
He doesn't say
Yeah.
dinner. He says have chow with okay. I'm gonna this is just a minor detail, but I swear to I thought he said hell and I assume that was just like a nickname for his wife. But when I put the subtitles on, it clearly said Helen and I.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear Helen. I heard hell.
Yeah.
But and he said, and afterwards let's stomp some brain cells and tell some stories.
Yeah, which often happens when Marines get together.
Right, especially old buddies like that,
Yeah.
drink some beers, tell some stories, tell mostly lies.
Yeah.
And, and then, of course, Gunny is like, I'd love to, but I got stuff to do. And of course, Sergeant Major Chuzu totally understands that.
Yeah, I think he's kind of, yeah, he knows kind of what lies ahead for him. So
Yeah, he says, he wants to get organized and, he hasn't met his platoon yet and all that. What, so that's kind of right where Lieutenant Ring comes in, right, as you mentioned. And I do like that little bit of business where he comes in, thinks he bumped into a higher ranking person, and is like, "Oh, sorry, sir." It like very, very childlike, you said, sheepishly. And as soon as
yeah,
he realizes they're enlisted guys, even though they're high ranking enlisted guys, he's like, I mean, Gunny.
yeah, yeah, trying to reassert himself.
Yeah, he does. He kind of stands up and deepens his voice, so he's more authoritative. He's more authoritative. He's not a
Yeah.
dick, but he's being like, well,
Yeah, 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 military bearing.
So Lieutenant Ring is played by Boyd Gaines, and do you know who he is? Have you do
That
you?
name is familiar.
He's been in a few things, and there's one thing in particular I didn't know this till I looked him up, and now I can't unsee it now that I know it's him.
Huh?
But he's in a pretty famous movie that was like the movie every like kid wanted to see in the '80s because it was so risque. He's Coach Brackett from Porky's.
Is he?
He's the one that gets with oh jeez, Kim Cattrall,
Oh wow.
and because he wanted to find out why they called her Lassie.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Oh, man, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. Now I want to go back and rewatch.
Yeah. he, he ends up having sex with her, and she starts howling, and that's why they call it. Somebody nicknamed her Lassie, and that's him. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
it's awesome.
that's right.
Has he
I've
been in
never.
anything recently?
Um, let's see. I did look him up, and I cannot think of what else he's been in.
Uh,
But I know, I mean, other than some older stuff, like he was in Fame, and he was in like the last season of One Day at a Time. He was what was that? Valerie Bertinelli's boyfriend.
okay.
I'm sure he's been in other stuff. In fact, I when I looked it up, I thought he's been in some other stuff more recent, but I don't know. If you care, I can look it up real quick.
Nah, it's not that important. I just
Right.
knew that the name seemed familiar, so how the fuck is Sergeant Major gonna get home without his pickup truck?
Well, Gunny will bring it back to him.
At some point.
I hope so. I mean, he's probably used to walking around. Okay, let's pretend no time has passed, and I looked this up immediately.
Oh,
Yeah, he's done plenty of things, post Heartbreak Ridge. More TV, like miniseries and stuff like that. Frasier. He's been
okay.
on a bunch of different stuff, but he was on like 2009. He was in The Good Wife, and it looks like he's got some work even in 2019. The Goldfinch. That actually sounds familiar, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it was a movie that came out. I saw an ad for it. I don't really know what it's about, but I remember seeing an ad for it.
Yeah, so he's worked,
Okay.
but nothing's actually jumping out for stuff that I've seen.
uh So he's not selling insurance now.
No.
Okay, good.
Well, maybe he's doing it on the side. I don't know.
Yeah, just supplementing his income with acting.
Right. So,
Hmm.
um, I like his look though. Well, first off, he drops his books,
Yeah,
and I tried to pause it to see what books they were. I really could not make them out, but
uh,
clearly one of them was some sort of USMC manual.
yeah. One of them looks like an MCI.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some correspondence type thing, but obviously he's college educated, and he makes a joke. Well, he doesn't make a joke. He says, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm late for my preschooler school,"
Yeah.
which I always thought was a funny, you
Yeah.
know, comment. But I think it's because he's flustered.
Yeah, and he's staring at all of Gunny Highway's ribbons again. He's
Yeah,
just
exactly. The whole time he's
dumbfounded.
gawking at him. Yeah, exactly. He's like preschooler school. Yeah, right. Because he's like trails off as he's like looking at. It's almost as if he was staring at a woman's breasts who were out, like
Yeah.
cleavage. Like that's how intently he was staring,
Yeah.
and like will not. Like he's almost perving on him.
Yeah.
But God, I like his birth control glasses that he's wearing. He's got a
Yeah.
good look.
Yeah.
It's like he just took the boot camp glasses and didn't even bother to update them.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, "These'll do."
Now, so when we were in, they gave the birth control glasses, the BCGs they call them, because
Mhm.
they're just the most hideous, glasses you get in boot camp. They're probably
Yeah.
they're cheap but durable. And
Yeah.
but what's funny is everybody calls them birth control glasses, but my senior drill instructor called them beat me fuck me glasses.
Really?
Oh yeah. I thought it was the funniest thing, like, because everybody's like, "Oh, the birth control, BCGs," and I'm like, "You mean the beat me, fuck me?"
Yeah. You must have, yeah, you clearly went to a different boot camp than we did.
These guys,
Yeah.
my senior was no joke. He was a hardcore dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were out in the middle in the swamp where nobody could see us, so they were a little more rougher.
Yeah. Swamp thing.
I looked it up on Urban Dictionary, and they actually instead of beat me, fuck me, they had the army calls them catch me, fuck me.
Mhm.
So pretty similar. I
Yeah.
mean, most people. I mean, the official word when you're in boot camp is "Where's your portholes?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause they're big windows.
When I was on the rifle range, I had to beat me fuck me glasses when I was in boot camp, but I had such a slight need for them. I really only needed them when I read for more than a couple minutes. So what I did is instead of wearing them all boot camp, I put them in my blouse pocket
Yeah.
or in my cargo pants, and I only put them on when we went to like knowledge classes,
Yeah.
or history classes and stuff.
Yeah, where you
Other than
had the
that, I didn't
lottery.
wear them. But when I was on the rifle range, I'm out there shooting,
Yeah.
and I guess I was maybe struggling a little bit because maybe I was having a little trouble seeing, and the senior was sitting there talking to me, and he's like, Lockhart, where's your portholes? Because he must have remembered I had them.
Yeah.
And in boot camp, you have to say this recruit. You don't say
Right.
I. You
Right.
know, and you never say my. You say this recruits. And for
Right.
whatever reason, while I'm out there, shooting, live firing, I decide to answer him with, well, sir, I don't need them all the time, so I kept my glasses only for when I need them. And the heavy walked by, who was another freaking badass dude. And he was like, he heard me saying I, and I didn't even realize I was doing it.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. But of course, you're on the rifle range and you got live ammunition. They're usually not as hardcore
Yeah.
treatment then. Else he immediately interrupts the conversation. He goes, Lockhart, turn the fuck around and keep firing before I fucking slam you. And I went, aye, sir. And I went back to shooting. And I knew as soon as he said that, I realized what I was doing and
Oh
why he
no.
said that to me. And it was like the most polite fuck you I've ever been commanded in boot camp.
Yeah.
Because he said it like, just like, you know what's best for you, son, right now? Turn the fuck around. It was kind of funny, but
That is
so
great.
yeah, yeah. So I guess the army calls them "catch me, fuck me," but we call them,
Beat
birth
me.
controls. But
Yeah.
yeah, beat me, fuck me is what I call them. I think
Yeah.
that's a great name.
Yeah. Because yeah, you don't have to run me down. For Marines, you got to fight me first.
Right.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so he's going to preschooler school, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But Tom Highway's great. His mama know he's playing Marine. He goes, his choose is great too. Oh well, just so you know, that's your platoon leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot. He goes, "What, you didn't think you were gonna tilt Nivel to a bunch of no rank fuzzbacks, did you?" So not only is he's gotta go ship up, put into shape recon platoon who's been less than highly motivated, as Major Powers put it, but now he's gotta, teach the ropes to a, boot ass lieutenant
Yeah.
who's playing Marine.
Yeah. Which is funny because when you think about it, some people that may or may not even know this, that lieutenant's probably been in less time than any of the people in recon squad
Yeah, that's true
by a
because
substantial amount.
yeah, well, we've discussed that. We thought, because we know we've seen the movie, but Stitch Jones, he's getting close to being done with his, first term of service.
Yep.
His first enlistment. So yeah, he's probably been in. He's probably one of the more senior members of Recon Platoon.
Yeah. I think he was a
You know,
corporal.
he was a corporal. What I was, because that's why I hesitated. I
Yeah.
was going to use the joke of him being a senior lance corporal,
Yeah.
but no, he is Corporal Jones. He is specific. He definitely is a corporal. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of these other guys are privates and lance corporals. So he
Yeah.
he is one of the more senior members of that platoon. But yeah, I mean that's so we meet Lieutenant Ring and off he goes, and honestly, it's a little stereotypical of being like the boot ass lieutenant, but it's
Yeah.
not far off from the real life.
No, not really. Not super far off, no.
He's a little comical. He's a little overly nerdy,
Yeah.
but at the
But
same time, it's not terribly
it's
off
not,
for
go
not
ahead,
for
I'm sorry.
everybody, not for everybody, but
No.
for some of them.
Yeah.
Like
Which
we've probably met people like this.
oh, yeah, we've met a few. I like what I liked about it too, just, from the storytelling perspective of the movie is that, he's a little bit more friendly, a little bit more approachable, but then you get the idea that, he's not gonna be as, spined as he ends up being later on in the movie.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it's almost to another way and I just thought of it was that to highlight the difference between Tom Highway and very old school rugged Marine, obviously the man, and
Yeah.
what is considered the new Marine Corps, the modern Marine Corps that as Major Powers put it together,
Mhm.
or mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's just a way to differentiate extreme sides. But
Yeah.
like you said, I like his character even here, even though he's meant to be the nerdy guy, and
Right.
these are the old school jocks or whatever. He
Yeah.
he he it's kind of he's funny. I don't know. He's got personality. But
Yeah.
and then after that, Sergeant Major Chuzu, offers to introduce Tom Highway to his platoon. He said, "No, I'd rather do it myself." And he said, "Well, here, take my pickup truck." And this is one of my favorite bits of the movie, and it's such a little thing. Is he goes, "Well, which one is it?" He goes, "You can tell by the sign, the one that says Sergeant Major."
Yeah. Yeah. My pocket's spot.
Yeah, he's what the battalion sergeant major. He's got his own parking spot.
Yeah.
I just like the kind of like, hey, dumbass, it's the one that's
Yeah.
got my name on it.
Yeah. Like, what is this, your first day at the office? What the hell?
Yeah, you can tell by the sign. I just love his delivery of it. I think it's great.
Yeah. That's the cool thing too, man. This movie, like the characters that really know each other, man, they just don't have any hesitation at all about giving each other shit for anything.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because honestly, I mean, this goes true for not just Marines, but definitely for
Nah.
Marines. That
Yeah.
if you like somebody like that, you're more often than not you're going to give them shit. If you don't
Oh,
like them, you're not
yeah.
gonna you're not gonna really even. There's going to be none of that,
No.
joking around like that. Okay, well, do you have anything else for this minute?
No, not yet. But yeah, it's starting to heat up. I think we're starting to um movie starting to pick up a little bit. So we're getting some more characters, and I guess from the end of this one here, we know that we're about to meet the infamous recon platoon. So
Yeah, we're definitely ramping up not only the characters like you said, but now we're really getting into the the Marine Corps parts of the movie. Before it was just kind of about Tom Highway.
yeah,
I mean, it's still about Tom Highway, but as far as we learn who he is as a character, we're now starting to get into Marine shit, as we like to put it.
yep, oh yeah, the glorious, glorious Marine shit.
All right, so before we leave, I'm just going to ask everybody who is listening if they're interested to go check out the moviesbyminutes.com to check out other movie podcasts. I also want to thank the Star Wars Minute people for popularizing this format. Pete and Alex did that. I want to ask everybody who's listening, if they're enjoying it or even if they're not, to go ahead and join us on the Marine Corps Movie Minute Quarter Deck, our Facebook group. Join us in the conversation about all things Clint Eastwood, all things Marines, and specifically Heartbreak Ridge. Tell us where we're right. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us if Lieutenant Ring is a first lieutenant or a second lieutenant, and share some stories, share some jokes. Would love to have you there. And I that's really it. So thanks, Perry, for joining me for another minute. Thanks everybody for listening to us. We will see everybody back on Monday. And let's get out of here before our mamas find out we're playing Marine. Before we go, Perry, let's consult our let's consult the Marine Corps manual to ensure we mount our old lady. I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to end that one.
Blooper.
Oh, I jacked it up. They can't be winners, man.